All right, we're going to go into more detail on chemistry here, talking about organic molecules. And there's a picture of a dog there, and really what you're seeing is one or two organic molecules, proteins. Keratin makes up the hair, and then the color is another protein, pigment called melanin. All right, there's a lot of slides here, but we're going to go pretty fast through some of them. What does it take to succeed in biology? That guy might not be a success, but it's probably studying 4 to 6 hours a week. And so this isn't rocket science. It's not really hard. It's just a matter of a lot of terms to memorize. So last time we introduced chemistry, the study of matter. Any solid, liquid, or gas is made up of chemicals. Uh, and there's some basic chemicals that can combine in different ways to produce lots of different materials. Okay, the basic units in chemistry are called atoms. Atoms have three types of subatomic particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. The protons and neutrons are in the center or nucleus of the atom. The electrons are on the outside. Electrons have a negative charge, protons have a positive charge. The number of protons determines what type of atom it is, and the number of electrons determines its reactivity. Atoms interact to get stable numbers of electrons. We're not going to do any chemical formulas. We're not going to do equations. We're just trying to understand why different things have different material properties and why they might form, how they're connected together. So we talked about chemical bonds. There's two types: ionic, where uh, ions are attracted. Their positive and negative ions are attracted to each other. These have exchanged electrons to get stable numbers. In covalent bonds, electrons are shared between two or more atoms. Water is one of the most common materials in all living cells. It's made up of one oxygen and two hydrogen atoms. The electrons are shared unevenly, so these are called polar bonds. Part of the molecule has a partial positive charge, the hydrogen part, and the other part, the oxygen, has a partial negative charge. This causes water molecules to interact with hydrogen bonds and gives it its unusual characteristics. Water molecules can dissociate into hydrogen and hydroxide ions, and those are the pH scale measures which of these is more common in a solution. Hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions are extremely reactive. It's a characteristic of all water solutions. Okay, so we're ready to move off now into the large complex molecules you find in living organisms. These are organic molecules. They have carbon and hydrogen bonds. They're very large molecules with complex structures. Uh, the molecules are, for the most part, covalently bonded, and all living organisms contain organic molecules. And there are four basic types: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. There's a very simple organic molecule, one carbon and four hydrogens, that's methane. Okay, carbohydrates are one of the groups of organic molecules. These are molecules that are made of sugars. The sugars are either linked together or by themselves, and they're called carbohydrates because they have a general formula of one carbon per two hydrogen per one oxygen. So that's like carbon and water together. These are common in structures and used to store energy. The simplest types are monosaccharides, simple sugars. These all have the formula C6H12O6, and there's three basic types we find: glucose, fructose, and galactose. Same formula, just slightly different arrangements of the electrons. They're good for transferring energy. We can use them for energy for our cells, and they're easy to digest, but they all require specific enzymes, and so some of them are more easy to digest than others. Two of these linked together form a disaccharide. Again, it's considered a simple sugar, but slightly different, slightly harder to digest, and a little different. These can be used for energy or energy transport. Sucrose, that's table sugar. Lactose, that's the sugar in milk. And maltose is in grains. Okay, and then we can also have polysaccharides. These are long chains of monosaccharides that have been linked together. They're, again, good for energy storage and for structure. You find them in cellulose in plants and fungi and in people as well. Okay, then lipids. These are the fats and oils, another different group of molecules. The fats and oils contain fatty acids. Saturated fats are solid at room temperature. Unsaturated fats are liquids. They're more found in plants. Also steroids, terpenes, and phospholipids. Lipids are good for structure, for energy storage. A few are used for regulation, and they can be used for protection. Uh, the otter here, his fur has a lot of lipid in it, so it's very water resistant. And this baby has this nice round appearance because a healthy baby stores lots of fat. And that's just under his skin and makes him look nice and healthy. Okay, so the main characteristic of lipid is that they don't dissolve in water. They're insoluble. And this is because they have a lot of nonpolar carbon and hydrogen bonds. So there's very little oxygen or nitrogen in these, almost none. Okay, so they're don't dissolve in water. Fats, oils, waxes, things like that. The lipids that form body fats are called triglycerides. They're made up of a glycerol and fatty acid chains linked together. Uh, the fatty acid chains don't need to be identical. Their length can vary. If they're saturated, they're nice and straight, and then they'll be solid at room temperature. If they're unsaturated, it means they have double bonds, and then they'll have kinks in them. You find those in plants and in fish. The most important structural lipids are phospholipids. They're found in the membranes of all biological organisms. They form the cell membranes. There's a phosphoglycerol head that likes water and fatty acid tails that form the membrane structure. Very, very common and essential component of all cells. Then steroid molecules, the last group of lipids, are not fatty acids, but they don't have much oxygen, but they're used for signal molecules. So they're like sex hormones and immune regulators and things like that. So these would be like testosterone, estrogens, steroids, things like that. Okay, the next big group are the proteins. And the proteins are made up of amino acids. So a protein can have any of the 20 amino acids linked together in any order for any number. So these all contain amino means nitrogen, so they all contain nitrogen. And the nitrogen units are what form the bonds, so they're called peptide bonds. And these molecules can be very large and have very complex shapes, so they have many, many functions. There's some examples of amino acids there. All proteins are just polymers of amino acids. Each amino acid has a central carbon, shown here. Then they'll have a nitrogen containing group, that's the amino group. And then directly opposite that, they will have an acid group, the COOH. Okay, and so the COOH of one amino acid will link to the NH2 group of another amino acid. And so that's where you get the amino acids. So all amino acids have those things, and then the 20 different ones have 20 different R's there. That's the variable group. Okay, so you link these things together in this long chain, and the chain starts to fold up because some amino acids like to be near others and not near certain ones. And it folds into complex three-dimensional shapes that are stable over the long term. And so this means proteins can do many, many different types of functions. They form enzymes. They form defense molecules. They're used to transport things like oxygen. Hemoglobin is a protein. Iron is transported that way. Structural molecules for support, like collagen or keratin. Keratin forms hair. Uh, the, our muscles, the contractile elements are proteins, actin and myosin. Many hormones are proteins. Growth hormones are protein. Other examples, insulin's a protein. They're used to store like lipids, all sorts of things like that. So very, very useful. Most functional molecules are proteins. And then lastly, the last big group of organic molecules are the nucleic acids. They are long polymers of nucleotides, and they contain lots of nitrogen and lots of phosphorus. There's two types of nucleic acids, DNA or RNA. DNA is the molecule of heredity. RNA is the molecule of protein production, and they all contain complementary nitrogenous bases that allows them to exchange information. There's some other nucleic acid-like molecules, ATP we'll talk about, NAD, but for the most part it's DNA and RNA. So nucleic acids are large molecules, they're polymers. Nucleotides are the subunits. Each nucleotide has a sugar, a phosphate, and the nitrogen base. In DNA, the sugar is deoxyribose. In RNA, it's ribose. There are 4 different bases in DNA and 4 in RNA, but 3 of them are overlap. Nucleotides are linked together in long chains. The nucleotides are linked together by phospho-sugar bonds, and so the phosphate sugar portions of it form the backbone. Oops. Oh, where am I here? Okay. The phosphate sugar parts form the backbone, and then the nitrogenous bases are attached to that. Uracil is in RNA only, thymine is in DNA only, adenine, cytosine, guanine are in both. So this sequence of bases codes for protein production. DNA is a double helix. Adenine and thymine always pair with each other. Cytosine and guanine always pair. And 3 bases form a code for a specific amino acid. RNA also can form a code. It's like DNA, but it is a single polynucleotide strand, and it uses the information to specify the sequence of amino acids in a protein. We'll say lots more about this later.